Listen, this school janitor had been mopping floors and emptying trash cans for 15 years, invisible to students and teachers alike. But when an armed intruder entered Jefferson Elementary with deadly intentions, what this quiet custodian did next revealed why some of America's most elite warriors choose the simplest jobs to serve their communities. Jefferson Elementary School housed 247 students, ages 5 through 11, in a quiet suburban district where the biggest excitement was usually the annual science fair. Mike Rodriguez had been the night custodian there for 15 years, arriving every evening at 6 p.m. to clean classrooms, mop hallways, and maintain the building that served as a second home to hundreds of children. Mike was the kind of employee who never called in sick, never complained about extra work, never asked for recognition. Teachers would find their classrooms spotless every morning, broken equipment mysteriously repaired, supply closets perfectly organized. He moved through the building like a ghost, efficient and invisible. What made Mike exceptional wasn't just his work ethic, it was his protective instincts. He knew every entrance, every exit, every blind spot in the building. He'd mentally cataloged potential security vulnerabilities, noted patterns in foot traffic, identified places where children might hide if they ever needed to. The staff assumed this attention to detail came from 15 years of experience. They had no idea it came from 8 years as a Navy SEAL, where situational awareness and tactical planning weren't job skills, they were survival requirements. Senior Chief Petty Officer Miguel Rodriguez had served with SEAL Team 3, conducting operations in Iraq, Afghanistan, and classified locations that would never appear on mission reports. He'd been trained at the highest levels of close-quarters combat, hostage rescue, and threat elimination. His specialty had been building infiltration and room clearing, skills that required split-second decisions in life-or-death situations. Mike had left military. The lockdown alarm wasn't supposed to sound during regular school hours. Mike was in the basement storage room, organizing cleaning supplies, when the sharp, piercing tone echoed through the building, followed by Principal Anderson's shaky voice over the intercom. "Code Red, lockdown. This is not a drill. All staff and students implement lockdown procedures immediately." Mike's SEAL training activated before his conscious mind could process what was happening. His body moved automatically toward the main hallway, while his brain ran threat assessments and tactical options. Code Red meant active shooter, in an elementary school, with 247 children who had no way to protect themselves. Through the basement window, Mike spotted a figure moving across the parking lot toward the main entrance. Adult male, approximately 6 feet tall, carrying what appeared to be a semi-automatic rifle. The man moved with purpose, not panic, suggesting this wasn't spontaneous, but planned. Mike's military experience kicked in with cold precision. Single shooter, unknown additional threats, target-rich environment filled with children and unarmed civilians. Response time for law enforcement would be minimum 8 minutes in this district. 8 minutes was a lifetime in an active shooter situation. The intruder had already breached the main entrance. Mike could hear the distinctive sound of classroom doors slamming shut as teachers implemented lockdown procedures, followed by the terrifying sound of gunfire echoing through hallways that were supposed to be filled with laughter and learning. Mike made a decision based on 8 years of combat experience and 15 years of protecting this building. He was going to stop the threat. Mike moved through Jefferson Elementary like he'd trained to move through hostile buildings in Iraq, silent, fast, and lethal. He knew this building better than any structure he'd ever operated in. Every blind corner, every tactical advantage, every position that offered cover and concealment. The shooter was methodically moving through the first-floor hallways, checking classroom doors. Mike could track his progress by sound. Heavy footsteps, testing door handles. When the shooter appeared, Mike was ready. Using techniques learned for neutralizing armed hostiles in confined spaces, He moved with the fluid precision that had kept him alive through dozens of combat operations. The fire extinguisher discharged directly into the shooter's face, blinding and disorienting him while Mike closed the distance. The entire engagement lasted less than 10 seconds. Mike disarmed the shooter using joint control techniques, secured the weapon, and neutralized the threat without killing him. It was professional, efficient, and exactly what he'd been trained to do for 8 years in the world's most dangerous places. But this time, instead of protecting fellow warriors, he was protecting children. When police arrived 4 minutes later, they found Mike Rodriguez sitting calmly in the hallway, the disabled weapon secured and unloaded, the shooter restrained with zip ties Mike had taken from his custodial supplies. 247 children and 34 staff members were unharmed. Detective Sarah Kim, first officer on scene, immediately recognized Mike's tactical positioning and professional handling of the situation. "Sir, this level of threat response, what's your background?" Mike was checking on teachers who were beginning to unlock their classroom doors, making sure everyone understood the threat had been eliminated. "I'm the janitor here. Been working this building for 15 years. "That's not what I mean," Detective Kim pressed. "The way you handled this situation, the way you secured the weapon, the way you controlled the suspect. That's professional military training." Mike looked at the children beginning to emerge from their classrooms, scared but safe. "Navy. Long time ago." "What unit?" A pause. "SEALS." The word hit the gathered law enforcement personnel like a physical force. Navy SEALs represented the pinnacle of military training, the warriors who handled America's most impossible missions. And one had been working. The story made national news. Navy SEAL working as janitor stops school shooter. But Mike declined all interview requests. He didn't want recognition, didn't want attention, didn't want his military background to become the focus. Principal Anderson approached Mike the day after the incident. "Mike, I need to ask you something. Why didn't you ever tell us about your background, about what you'd done before working here?" Mike was emptying trash cans in a second-grade classroom, returning to the routine that had defined his civilian life for 15 years. "Ma'am, I left that world because I wanted to protect people without violence. Working here let me keep watch over the most important people in our community, the children, without carrying weapons or thinking about war. But yesterday was different. When someone threatens children, you use whatever training you have to stop them. That's not war. That's protection." In the aftermath, Mike was offered positions with school security companies, private protection firms, law enforcement agencies. The salary increases would have been substantial, the recognition significant, the opportunity to use his full skill set professionally again. Mike turned them all down. "I appreciate the offers," he told the district superintendent, "but I already have the job I want. These children need someone watching over them who understands what real threats look like, who can spot problems before they become crises, who cares more about their safety than about recognition or pay." Mike continued working as Jefferson Elementary's custodian, but things had changed in subtle ways. Teachers now understood that their building was protected by someone extraordinary. Parents felt safer knowing their children were watched over by a guardian with unmatched training and dedication. The children, too young to fully understand what. But Mike's greatest legacy wasn't institutional, it was personal. He'd proven that the most effective guardians are often invisible, that the strongest protection comes from those who serve without recognition, and that sometimes the most important missions happen in the most ordinary places. So now I gotta ask you guys, Have you ever looked at the maintenance workers, custodians, or support staff in your school, workplace, or community and wondered about their stories? About what they might have done before they chose to serve in quiet, humble ways. Drop a comment about the unsung heroes who keep your world safe and clean. The people whose backgrounds you might never know, but whose dedication keeps you protected every single day. Because here on the Human Stories, we honor the warriors who traded combat boots for work boots, who chose mop buckets over military missions, who found ways to keep serving without anyone knowing just how capable they really are. Thanks for watching, guys. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to understand that heroes work in every profession, in every community, often without recognition or glory. Hit subscribe to help us celebrate the guardians who walk among us. And the next time you see a custodian, a maintenance worker, someone keeping your spaces clean and safe, remember Mike Rodriguez. Remember that some of the most powerful protectors are the ones who choose the simplest ways to serve. Because sometimes the most important victories happen in elementary school hallways, protected by warriors who never stopped serving. They just found new ways to protect the people who matter most. That's what real heroes do. They don't need recognition. They just need to know the innocent are safe.